Hi guys, and in today's video we're going to investigate the rest of Seabed and try and get to the bottom of what's actually going on in the events of episode 2. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video for Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst. In today's video we're going to continue the lore playthrough of episode 2. So in the last episode we got to the seabed and we started discovering that there being some kind of experimentation going on. We also know that Pioneer have tried to implant an AI core into a test subject. So we're going to progress a bit deeper into Seabed and try and figure out what exactly is going on with the story now. So we're up to this one, which is 8-2 Desire's End. Thank you for coming, Hunter Taker. Continue your search of the Seabed facility and try to find any hint of Flowen's whereabouts. His messages definitely originated from within this area. He's got to be in there. Alive or dead. Thank you, Taker. Please continue to investigate the upper and lower facility areas. The weird photon emissions get higher the deeper you go down. We don't know if something else is lurking down there. Cal also advises extreme caution. So really not a lot to go on. Does Dan tell us anything? Chief Natasha. I'm so scared of her. So we had this in the last episode where Dan seemed to be sort of second guessing Natasha, and he was starting to wonder if Natasha was maybe in on some of this and maybe knew more than she was letting on. And now he's actually openly saying that he's actually a bit scared of her. So there is this kind of a bit of a rift forming between these two. I guess it's just probably just fear because there's a lot of crazy things coming out in the story now, and he's probably just scared and just really doesn't know what's going on. So it looks like we're going to be investigating the upper and lower levels. Well, it said that, but it's actually just the lower levels, which is really odd. So this is Seabed lower levels. You can see it's looks quite similar. There is obviously a lot less light down here with it being further under the sea. And we've been told previously that the photon emissions from D-cell life forms get higher the further you go down here. So as usual, we do have a message from Ellie. You can see actually when you look out here as well that it is a lot murkier outside now. So we'll check in with Ellie. Yeah, so we've got a lot of static. So again, we had this a little bit in the last episode as well, where some of the communication terminals were starting to get a little bit hard to get messages through because of these static. Taker. Hi, this is Ellie from the lab. This is the Seabed facility's lower level. It seems that seawater has breached the wall somewhere. And now seawater is pouring into the facility. And I told you that this facility had an upper and lower section. But I was wrong. I'm sorry. When reviewing the facility's structure, Cal indicated that there was another layer under the lower level. A deep vertical hole extends downward from there. It's unclear what it was used for. It's very mysterious. Yeah, so we now know, when we first came here, we were told that it was an upper level and a lower level, and that the density increased the further you went down. We now know there is actually 3 levels. We have the upper and lower levels, and then there is a long vertical shaft, basically, that we don't know what the purpose of that is. But given what we've learned about this facility so far, it is a little bit ominous and a little bit foreboding. So we'll push into the facility, and I'll probably cut to whenever we get another message or whenever anything else happens. Okay, so we do have another terminal here, so we'll see if this has anything on it. So, warning. Seawater hazard from cage beta 630 in research facility lower area. All staff in this area must evacuate immediately. Warning. Seawater hazard from cage beta 630 in research facility lower area. All staff in this area must evacuate immediately. Now, we know that the beta series of experiments were the altered beasts, and the reason that we know that is because Durol we have heard previously referred to as beta 772. So could this be that something similar to Durol has escaped containment and has caused the seawater to flood in? We don't really know, but it's clear that something has happened down here to cause the seawater to ingress into the seabed. So while we're here, we will also check the search logs. And we do have a search item. So we'll keep an eye out for any terminals. So say thematically this is very similar to the seabed upper level. But you can see that there are these puddles of seawater in a lot more areas, so it's clear that the seawater has come quite far into the plant. So we do have another terminal here, so we'll check this out. So we'll check we'll see if we've got any information on the code gamma. Yeah, so we've finally got the data log for the code gamma. So code gamma indicates projects begun in the final stages of the experiment. There are 3 projects with level gamma codes that we found in the records that can also be found in the facility now. Interestingly enough, they're all decellular sublife forms. This is interesting because we know they started experiments with machines, then they moved on to altered beasts, and then they moved on to D-cells. So you can see the research stages of the project advancing. That means the sublife forms were created by researchers. I'll explain each of these types briefly. First, Del Depth. Its movement is very slow when in humanoid form. They change their body shape in order to move. They get dramatically faster when they transform. So be careful. Second, Morphos. Sublife form that resembles a floating wall. Beware of its long-range laser attack. We've lost many reconnaissance devices to that attack. It's best to attack its backside where its armor is lighter. Third, Delbiter. 4-legged sublife form, they're huge and ferocious. It has a tendency to charge towards its target at full speed. Please be careful not to get stepped on. So just some basic information about the D-cells. So interestingly though, that the Del Depths in particular are humanoid sublife forms. We also know that, you know, they have been previously experimenting with implanting, well, with getting test subjects with the D-cell and implanting other things into them. Are they now trying to reverse engineer that? It's not really something we can tell, to be honest, at this point, but it's clear that the research is taking a dark turn now. We've gone from, you know, experimenting on machines to then moving on to living things and mutating things into altered beasts, and we're actually now manufacturing D-cell sublife forms like we're in the ruins in episode 1. Okay, so as we get a little bit further in, we do get another one of these main terminals. At the moment we can't get anything from this, there's too much static. So as we get into this room here, you can see the extent of the damage in the seabed. You can see that a lot of the glass panels have been completely broken open. If we move over here as well, you can also see that there's a massive flood down here. So you can see that it is a very severe flood that's happened in the plant. Again, we don't really know what was going on down here. We know that obviously a lot of these storage cages are being held down here. You can see there's some kind of like a crane above us that's clearly transporting these. I would assume that these are carrying either research materials or perhaps some test subjects. But you can see that whatever has caused this problem down here There is a massive, massive ingress. Unfortunately, we can't get through here. Normally, this part is open up so you can actually walk through to see, but you can probably get a decent idea from here. You can see how much it's actually flooded. You can also see, when we get into these kind of areas here, you can see that the water here is sort of knee-high. So whatever broke out of its containment has caused a lot of damage to the plant. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to assume there's one behind as well. So we dove into the terminal here from Ellie. Do we have anything else? Nothing yet. Okay, so as we go a bit further through, we do actually come back to this room again. But this time you can actually go in here. So if you go along here, you can see that a lot of the supporting sort of structures have all collapsed into the sea. And you see it has completely flooded down here. But the reason I wanted to show this is because it kind of shows how much damage has actually been done to this facility. You don't get any impression of that in the upper levels, really. It's only when you get down to these lower levels you can see how much of an ingress has actually been. Now, this to me kind of looks like some sort of loading bay, which I'm assuming they use to get their experiments brought in or shipped out. Because obviously we know that they were active on the mainland as well. So perhaps there was parcel, you know, these like shipping crates coming in and out. So this could be where they arrived and departed from. But you can see that it is just completely flooded. You can see there's also temporary repairs here as well. So you can see there is some wooden planks here as well, just holding this part up. So whatever broke out of its containment has done a lot of damage on the way. So as we come down here, there is a warp. And this takes us to a room that is actually full of traps. Again, it might be quite hard to see, but in the water there is a lot of those stealth traps. Part of me kind of wonders if the stealth traps are designed to actually catch the life forms. So if they wanted to study one of the life forms, for example, they could catch it in one of those traps. Because we know these life forms have spread all over Gardaval Island because it looks like the island itself was used as a testing base. So I suppose if they wanted to bring back any of the life forms for studying, they could use those traps to do it. It's also likely that they may be just used for security measures as well. So again, we see a lot more of these D-cell creatures down here as well. And again, it does beg the question of why are all these creatures out in the open? Like, shouldn't these all be contained? So we're kind of putting things together because we know there's been some kind of breach in the seabed. You know, we're aware that something has gone wrong and things have escaped. So we delve into the terminal. Now, the last one we went to, we couldn't get anything from. Can we get anything from this one? I am powerless yet. I have everything. In this dark abyss. I wait for the savior of the red captive child. My destruction. At the bottom of the deep abyss. I wait. Wait. Heathcliff. Flow. Taker, can you hear me? Good. Sorry about the bad connection. Anyway, that message was not a log. It was not a previously recorded message. It was received in real time. Just like that first transmission the lab received. Plus, it originated way below the facility's lower section. There's a long vertical hole that starts from the lower level. That's where the message was sent from. According to the data collected from the Seabed facility, it's labelled elevator shaft. And further down below, Taker, please, come back. So even Ellie is getting worried now and she actually wants you to come back. I think she's worried about what she's found. Now, obviously we need to talk about that first message. So Ellie has said that that message was received in real time. That means it wasn't a recording. That means that whoever sent it is here now. You could tell from the end of it that it was kind of broken up, but it was obviously trying to say Heathcliff Flowen. And he's saying that he's waiting for you for the saviour of the red captive child. Now, given the timeline now, we are now probably at the point where episode 1 and 2 have very much overlapped. He knows now that Rico has gone to investigate the ruins. He knows that Rico probably is in a lot of trouble, but he also knows that the Hunters Guild on Pioneer 2 would probably have sent someone to try and save her, which is obviously you in episode 1. So he is waiting for the saviour of the red captive child. What he doesn't know at this point is that obviously Rico hasn't survived. He is now waiting for you at the bottom of this elevator shaft in the deepest part of the seabed. He's basically waiting for you, and he basically wants you to destroy him. Because obviously he's been experimented on. We know that he's the likely recipient of this AI Olga core. And we know that he's also infected with the D-cell D-factor mutation as well. So it's likely at this point, given that his voice was very broken up as well, that the mutation process has probably already started and is probably advanced to quite a stage now. And he's now at a point where he's literally asking you to go to the elevator shaft and kill him. So this is a very, very dark message, and one that is very, very chilling to hear. So we now know what we're likely going to be up against at the end of episode 2. We know that we're probably not going to be bringing Flowen back alive. But we also now know that he thinks that we're going to be the saviour of Rico, which is probably going to be not great for him to hear when he finds out. However, the phrase saviour of the red captive child could be taken another way as well. So he could genuinely not know that Rico has died and thinks that you are going to be the one that saves her. But saving her could also be seen as freeing her from Darkfalls by defeating Darkfalls. So we don't really know which way this means at the moment. So the only way we can do this is basically just keep pushing into Seabed and come face to face with whatever Flowen is now. Because it's clear that whatever he is now, it's not who he was before. So as always, we'll go and report our findings to Natasha. That's shocking. The messages from Flowen have been coming in real time. And from someplace beneath the lower part of this area. Is it really Heathcliff Flowen down there? Or could it be something completely different? In either event, we've got to ascertain what the truth is. Thanks for your work. We'll be calling on you again. So Dan has just gone completely silent now. Honestly, I think Dan at this point is just so overwhelmed with everything that's being disclosed in the last couple of missions. He's probably just beyond belief at this point that the Pioneer 1 could be involved in this. And I think he's obviously still got this distrust of Natasha maybe as well. He's not sure if Natasha is actually involved or if she knows more than she's letting on. Take it, you're okay. I was so worried since I lost my communication with you. I checked with Cal and the communication link was cut off by some sort of jamming signal. Also, that message wasn't a log. It wasn't a previously recorded message. It was received in real time, just like the first one the lab received. Not only that, but it originated below the lower section. Apparently there's a deep vertical shaft connected to the lower section. It's kind of strange just because she's already told you this when you finish the quest. We're still investigating the message data. So we're now up to this one here, which is purple lamplight. Thanks for coming, Hunter Taker. We've pinpointed the exact location of the original transmissions. Make your way there and confirm whether Flowen is still there or not. Once you've confirmed whether Flowen is still there, find out what you can about this area and gather any information you can about what happened to Pioneer 1 on Rigel. Your operator will provide the details of the messages. I won't lie to you, this is going to be dangerous. But you're the only one we can depend on to carry out this mission. This will very likely be our final request of you. Good luck. So it sounds like this is where episode 2 is starting to wrap up now. So we're going back to the Seabed to try and find out what exactly has happened to Flowen and how we can tie this to the events of Pioneer 1 on Rigel. It's interesting that Natasha brings it up, so she obviously knows that whatever has happened here is probably connected to the explosion at the Central Dome. Taker. We've pinpointed where Mr. Flowen's messages were coming from. It's below this area. There's even a hole that bores down even deeper. That's the source of the transmissions. According to the data collected from the facility, that vertical hole is an elevator shaft. And further down below, a test subject disposal site. That's what they called it. That's got to be where Mr. Flowen is. Taker, please. Find a way to get to the test subject disposal site and find Mr. Flowen. I just wish that I could get my feelings across. But, well, please be careful. So Ellie is obviously very, very worried. Dan is still completely silent. So it's all sounding very, very ominous now with what's going on. I guess there's no other way to find out than just to go straight into it. So this will basically be a full Seabed run, more or less. It might be very, very hard to hear, but when you first load into Seabed, you occasionally get this this noise in the background, which kind of sounds like sort of muffled speech. Remember that. So what I'll do here is, because it is pretty much a normal Seabed run, I will push on, and I'll just cut back to whenever anything interesting happens. So as we get through more of Seabed, I can confirm this quest is basically just a multiplayer run through Seabed. You can do it single player as well, but it's like multiplayer enemy accounts. Once you get deep into Seabed lower level, you get to this point here. Now, in episode 1, there's a part of ruins where there's a huge long corridor, and I jokingly called it the Corridor of Doom in the episode 1 lore playthrough. Think of this essentially as the episode 2 version of that. So we're getting to pretty much the deepest point of this place now. And you can see we come down to here. First of all, there's interesting this like electric effect around the boss portal. I'm not sure what that's meant to indicate necessarily, but it's clear that we're being drawn to here. So just before we jump in, think of what we know so far. We know that Flowen's signal is coming from this area here. This is essentially the portal to the elevator shaft that Ellie was mentioning earlier. We know that Flowen is waiting for us, for the saviour of the red captive child. Now, when I enter this portal, what I want you to do is, I'm not going to speak at the start. I want you to just listen to the sound. Because what will happen is, we're actually going to get spoken to. And it will probably be quite hard to understand it because it's very distorted, but just listen to it. And once we've got into the fight, I'll try and explain what it actually says. So with that, let's go and meet the final boss of episode 2. Yeah, so this is the final boss of episode 2. So this is Olga Flowen. And as you can probably tell by the name, it's a mixture of Olga from the Olga AI and Flowen. So this, unfortunately, is Heathcliff Flowen. This is what he's transformed into. Now, you can hear it kind of speaks to you every so often. Now, the text at the start, what he actually says, it's very, very distorted. Obviously, because the mutation has happened to him, but what he actually says to you is, he says, "I am Olga Flowen, ultimate of all evolution." And then he says, "You killed my goddess." Now, by that, it's very widely thought that by "you killed my goddess" that he's probably referring to Rico. Because by this point, he probably knows that Rico is not alive. How he knows that, I'm not entirely sure. But it's clear that he does know that Rico hasn't survived the events of episode 1. And he's essentially taken out on you because I guess at this point he kind of sees as you failing him. Now, that obviously isn't just Flowen speaking, it is obviously a combination of the D factor combined with, you know, the corrupted Olga AI as well. So it's not that Flowen necessarily would want this to happen to you. He's been completely overwhelmed at this point by the D factor. It could also be seen potentially as Falt's kind of trying to speak through him as well, because obviously Rico was Falt's vessel. So some of the cool things about this fight, just as we keep going, you can see that he uses a sword in one hand. If you play PSO, you know that there is a weapon called Flowen's Sword. So this is meant to be Flowen's Sword that has mutated with the D factor. So it's mutated into this. That is also why there is no real Flowen's Sword. And some people will say, oh, the 3084 Flowens is the real one, but it isn't. That's also a replica, it's just a very, very good one. This is the real Flowen's Sword, and it's the Dark Flow. So there is some sort of cool elements of him that you can see. It is kind of hard to tell anything else based on his appearance. But you can tell he's obviously got this humanoid appearance, which is kind of similar to how some parts of Faults were in episode 1. So you can see the D-Factor has clearly done work on Flowen, unfortunately, and has just transformed him completely into this monster. And this is where he's been waiting for us. We also know, however, that before he mutated into this fully, because now he's saying that we've killed his goddess, but in the message before this, he was saying that he waited for you as the savior of the red captive child, and that he wanted to wait for his destruction. So he basically knew that this was going to happen to him, and he knew that he wanted you to be there to kill him. So he's essentially begging for you to kill him. But at this point, when you get here, obviously he's mutated even more, and now he's at a point where he just doesn't really recognize what he's doing, and he just sees you as a murderer who's killed Rico. Which is really sad, honestly. So we'll take out this phase. It is a very cool fight thematically, this. I love the music, and I love how you're fighting on the elevator going down to the bottom of the test subject disposal facility. Also, Olga Flowen, one of the few bosses in PSO that can actually destroy you very, very easily, particularly in the high difficulties. In Ultimate in particular, he is essentially a DPS race to try and kill him before he kills you. So as we defeat him there, he obviously falls to the bottom of the elevator shaft and crashes here. Now this is a really cool set piece, I think, so you can see Olga Flowen is laid out, seemingly defeated, and there's this glowing light going around him. Now this glowing light will actually follow you. You can see it's actually coming closer to me. This basically triggers the second phase of the fight. So this is the test subject disposal facility, and this is where Flowen has been basically dumped. So the impression I get is that once the experiment got to this stage and they realised how dangerous it was getting, Pioneer 1 obviously realised they were in way over their heads and thought, we need to get rid of this. And they basically just dumped Flowen in the bottom of the test subject disposal facility and then basically just left him there to die because they didn't want him to actually break free, because they knew it would be far too dangerous. So as we get closer, we'll trigger the second phase. And this is the final phase of the episode 2 boss. And at this point now, the D-Factor is now completely overtaken him. One really cool thing about this phase though is, you might be able to see it, but he actually has mags. So this sort of tells you that he is connected to Pioneer because he actually has mags with him. It's really, really cool. He also has all the telltale signs of a typical sort of end boss, in that he has things like divine punishment. You can see he's making part of the area collapse as well, so he is very intent on killing you at this point. Just to note, if you've never done this boss before, if you destroy his mags, it will actually weaken his divine punishment a bit, and he won't have as good a target on it. I want to try and get him to do... There's another part of this boss I want him to do. So this is the divine punishment. So this is a big callback to things like Dark Falls. There is actually a hidden secret with this boss as well. Now, I won't be able to show you in this one because I don't think I have any of the required weapons with me. But just a little secret is, if you actually fight this boss and use one of the red weapons, like a red saber or anything, you can actually see Flowen after the fight. But I've always thought this is a fantastic thematic way of ending episode 2. You get the sort of the grand reveal of what Flowen has actually become. And also like the sadness of knowing that he was just dumped here as an experiment that got far too dangerous. And it kind of calls back to episode 1 because again it's Pioneer 1 getting way in over their heads and not understanding what they're actually getting involved with. But it's an extremely cool boss, this. I've always really liked Olga Flowen. So basically, he does have another phase. I just don't know if he does it in normal or not, where he will actually turn you into like a projection of Flowen, and that is basically him showing you that he is Flowen. It's kind of similar to when Dark Falls in Harden Above steals your soul. And again, that kind of ties him back to Dark Falls as well. I don't think he's going to do it. So there you go. There's an example of how strong Olga Flowen is. So I deliberately tanked that. I'm needed level cap, and this is in normal. And he took half my health with that Divine Punishment. So what we'll do is we'll defeat Olga Flowen, and we'll put Flowen out of his misery. I think he's suffered enough, to be honest. We get to see, much like Faults, we get to see Flowen's soul disappear. And then just a final confirmation. And that brings us to the end of episode 2. I've always thought the screen there is a bit sad because it says, "Congratulations, you're the hero." But there's nothing really happy about episode 2. I mean, I suppose the only happy thing is that you have effectively saved Pioneer 2, I guess. But there's no happy ending. Much like episode 1, there is no happy ending for the person you're trying to find. And ultimately for a lot of the people who worked in the Seabed lab, I guess, because we saw no evidence of them, so it's assumed that they've all died as well. The likelihood is, for the crew, is that once things got too dangerous here, I'm guessing that people probably fled the Seabed lab to the mainland, and then the events of episode 1 took place. Again, very hard to sort of put the timelines together for this. But yeah, so if you do this boss fight and you use a red weapon, if you then go back to Pioneer and then come back again, you'll see a projection of Flowen here. You can also do it with Rico in episode 1 as well, but for that you have to use a either Dark Floor, Dark Meteor, or Dark Bridge. But if you go back to see Faults, Rico will be sat on the altar. So just a very quick look around here, you can see this is, well, there's not much to say about this place, honestly. It is just wreckage everywhere. You can just see that basically everything was just dumped down here. Yeah, so we get this little sign here that just says episode 2 complete. To be continued. And then you get dumped back the lobby. So there's not much sort of to go on at the end of this really, because you can't actually teleport back to the lab once you're in that boss fight. So there's really not much to go on. It just kind of says, oh, to be continued, and then dumps you back to the lobby, which I think is a bit of a shame really. So let's just check in the lab and just see if anyone says anything different now. Yes, there is nothing else there, but looks thinks these are all acting like you've just started the episode. I'm happy because I get to touch the machines in the lab as much as I want. You keep being weird, Ellie. Yeah, so that is the end of the lore for episode 2. So ultimately, Flowen mutates due to the D factor, combined with the Olga AI core that's installed in him. There is a little bit more lore for episode 2 if you do some of the side quests, so we might cover those as well at some point. But for the main story of episode 2, that is the end of it. So Flowen unfortunately does not survive, much like Reg and Rico. He gets completely overwhelmed by the D factor. And the really sad thing is, as well, is that he dies not knowing the extent of what happened to Rico to a degree, because he knows Rico went to the ruins, and he knows that it's clear that when you fight Olga Flowen, he knows that Rico probably hasn't survived because he says, "You killed my goddess." But we still don't know a whole lot about the relationship between Rico and Flowen either. We know that they obviously cared for each other to some extent. We know that there was a definite friendship between them. Now, whether that was something that was budding on Pioneer 1, I'm not sure. But we know there was some connection between them both, and it's very, very sad at this point to see that both of them ultimately met the same fate. So in regards to the rest of the lore playthrough, you would think that episode 3 would be next, but chronologically episode 4 is actually the next one because PSO is confusing. So the next one will be the start of the episode 4 story. Now, I will warn you, the episode 4 story is nowhere near as strong as episode 1 and 2, in my opinion. But we'll play through it just for completion's sake. As for episode 3, I don't know what I'm going to do for that yet, because that would require me to put a lot of time investment into Ep 3 or download someone else's save file to get decent cards, because the problem with episode 3 as well is there is a lot of diverging paths, so there's a lot of repetition you have to do to get different routes, and I don't know if I want to honestly do that for a lore video. I'll have a think about that and try and decide what the best thing is going forward, but for the time being we'll focus on episode 1, 2, and next we'll start episode 4. So I hope you've enjoyed the series of the lore playthrough so far. I know episode 2 just kind of ends very suddenly. It's this massive build up and then it's just all over before you know it. So next episode we'll start episode 4's lore playthrough. As usual, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, or joining as a member on YouTube. You can also follow me or sub on Twitch as well if you want to. I do stream over there as well. I tend to stream multi-stream on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. And I do a couple of videos a week. You can also join us on the Discord or follow me on Twitter at Section Skyline as well. Yeah, hope you've enjoyed the playthrough so far, and I'll see you guys in the next one for the start of episode 4.